This is a continuation of the construction Google presentation. The previous video completed the preparing a site. This video is going to pick up there. Here you can see examples of sites being prepared. Some houses are built on what we call a slab, which is basically just a big piece of concrete that the house is built directly on top of. The majority of houses in this area have some type of foundation underneath them, whether it be a basement or a crawl space. Here's an example of building in the woods. This is an excavator. You can use a variety of tools to cut down the trees and clear the lot, but all of the brush would need to be removed before you could dig for the basement. The foundation is the start of the house. You have footings that go underneath. If you think of footings like a snowshoe for the wall, snowshoes prevent you from sinking into the deep snow. A footing is a wider base for the concrete wall so that it does not sink and settle into the ground. It's wider, and the wall sits on top of it so it doesn't sink into a softer ground. Your options for a foundation could be a basement, a full basement, a crawl space, which is a basement with a lower ceiling, or building right on a slab. There's two real popular types of foundations: block, which is individual blocks laid down with mortar, and a poured wall. Pictures of the following. Here you see footings. They're laying out the footings. The walls will go on top of these. These pieces of wire sticking out of the footings, that's called rebar. Those are pieces of steel. When you're working with concrete, you use rebar to strengthen the concrete and to hold it together. Concrete dries very hard, but the steel adds some tension, strength, and resistance to cracking. These are forms. This is what you would use if you were pouring a foundation. These are basically like a mold that get filled with concrete. Then after the concrete has cured, these forms will be taken down and removed. But this is what holds the concrete together while it's curing. Here's an example of a block wall. You can see each individual block has been laid down and mortared together. We still use rebar, as you can see in the corners. Those blocks will be filled in with some concrete, and they're also a common type of foundation. This is a newer type of form. This is a foam form. This is similar to the other steel forms. This gets filled with concrete. However, the foam remains in place and adds insulative value to the foundation. So it helps insulate the walls. The foam forms are a little bit more labor intensive to set up because they get put into place and are fastened together, but they allow for a better insulated foundation. Building the framework is really where the carpenters come into play. They're going to start with floor joists, build the walls, and depending on how many stories the house is, then put on the roof. Here you see the foundation. On top of the foundation, we have what we call the sill plate. The sill plate is the first piece that goes on top of the concrete. Then we have what we call joists. Joists are the pieces of wood that span the opening of the basement. We have a rim joist that goes around the outside of the house, and then each individual joist will span the distance between. This opening right here that you see, that would be for a staircase that would go down into that basement. We're getting into the second floor, or where all of the walls are going to go together. Each one of these components is labeled, and I'm going to stop this here and create a second video to identify all of the components.